Swedish membership of NATO contributes to making our defense of the three Baltic states even more efficient and stronger. And Finland and Sweden have together with all the other countries along the shores of the Baltic Sea actually made the Baltic Sea a NATO lake. So Sweden brings a lot to the table. And in exchange, Sweden gets a very strong defense against any possible Russian attack, because now Sweden is covered by the famous Article 5 that states that an attack on Sweden would be considered an attack on the whole alliance, so we will all help Sweden in that case.
Have you been hoping for our membership for long, personally?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I even didn't hide it. But obviously, both as Prime Minister of Denmark and Secretary General of NATO, I did not interfere with domestic Swedish politics. But I have hoped for Swedish membership for a quite long time. And now it's become a reality.
Yeah. And Anders Fogh Rasmussen, you're also advising the President Zelensky of Ukraine. What advice have you given him now? And is there something that we in Sweden or perhaps the Nordics or NATO can learn from the advice you give him?
Yeah, first of all, we should all deliver all the weapons the Ukrainians need and lift all restrictions. Give them everything they need. Let them use them for whatever purpose they would like. It's our clear interest to stop this war as soon as possible, and to that end we need to give the Ukrainians everything they need. I have helped, and I am helping Zelensky and his government in two areas. Firstly, I was asked to prepare proposals as to how we can guarantee the security of Ukraine in the future. And we produced a report called the Kiev Security Compact, a set of proposals as to how we can make Ukraine more capable to defend itself against any Russian attack. And I'm pleased to see that following that report, a number of NATO allies are now negotiating, some have already concluded, bilateral security agreements with Ukraine. That's been a great success.
All right.
Second area is a report we launched last week as to how we can make the upcoming NATO summit in Washington in July a success. And one of the concrete proposals is to extend an invitation to Ukraine to start accession talks with a view to becoming a NATO member. We need Ukraine as a bulwark against an aggressive Russia, and to that end, we should start accession talks sooner rather than later.
That sort of begs the question, what would Russia think of that talk going on? But maybe you've taken that into account.
Yeah, but I have to tell you that nothing interests me less than Putin's thinking. I know that one of the arguments among skeptics is that we risk to escalate the war by inviting Ukraine to join NATO. But listen, what can Putin do? He's the one who has escalated. And if we give in to his threats, then we let the tyrants rule the world. We cannot. So I think we have one thing to answer, namely, the more you threaten, the more weapons we send to Ukraine.
And Anders Fogh Rasmussen, we're here today at an IT event. Cybersecurity is something that many organizations are working with. What's your take on the developments when you were NATO Secretary General of NATO compared to now when it comes to sort of cyber warfare and cyber threat?
Clearly, cyber warfare and cyber threats, cyber crimes, etc., have grown. since I was Secretary General of NATO. We saw the beginning already during my term as Secretary General of NATO, and this is the reason why already at that time, I think it was in 2013 or 14, we defined cybersecurity as part of NATO's overall security. That is, if an adversary launches a cyber attack against a NATO ally, that cyber attack can be considered a so-called Article 5 event. That is, the whole alliance will help that country. And we have allies in NATO that possess very offensive cyber capabilities. They could be launched in a counterattack against someone who try to launch a cyber attack against us.
Okay.
And I think this is a reason why we have not seen so far a massive Russian cyber attack against any NATO ally. We have seen cyber attacks against Ukraine.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen a massive attack against any NATO ally, and I think that's because Putin knows that if he tried to attack us through cyber instruments, then the response from our side would be very strong, and he doesn't want to risk that. So it's an example that the best deterrence against a tyrant is to be stronger than him.
So presumably now that Sweden joins NATO, we also will have that sort of cyber cover.
Absolutely.
Like
yeah. So all NATO allies, all 32 allies are protected by our cyber security shield, so to speak.
Yeah, okay. Lastly, Anders Fogh Rasmussen, we sometimes hear that Denmark as a state is sometimes quicker to adapt to new technology and bring it out sort of faster and push it out to all of the Danish public sector compared to in Sweden, where we have municipalities that they sort of do the thing each municipality at a time. Is there, since you were the Prime Minister, do you have any tips of how we could be more like you, as it were, on this area to bring technology faster to the public sector?
Yeah, but even in Denmark, you will listen to criticism that we are too slow to roll out new technology. But you're right. I think one of the reasons why we are relatively effective in Denmark in rolling out information and communication technology is that we have a very streamlined public sector.
Okay.
We have only 96 municipalities. They're quite big.
Yeah.
We have only 5 regions and a quite effective government and state. So obviously this is an advantage when you want to take quick decisions and implement those decisions relatively quickly.
Yeah.
But I know in all countries it's a bit controversial maybe to centralize your public administrative structures that way. But we did so during my term as Prime Minister, and there are pluses and minuses, but I think when it comes to cyber and the rollout of information and communication technology, it may be a plus.
Well, Anders Fogh Rasmussen, thank you so much for your time. Very interesting to talk to you.
You're welcome.